Good evening, Democratic Labour Party members. Good evening. And to the Barbadians who are watching in Barbados or across the parishes, as well as the diaspora, good evening to them. Candidates, good evening. Party members, good evening. And of course, our leader, Ralph Thorne. This evening, for me, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our leader of the Democratic Labour Party. And I said when we first began on Friday night that Democratic Labour Party is back. We are listening, we are preparing, and we will lead. So at this time, let us introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Ralph Thorne K.C. MP, soon to be our next Prime Minister of Barbados.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Sounds good. Let me acknowledge the chairman of the conference committee, the high table, my great friend, Ms. Felicia Dujon. I have not heard an announcement, but I will congratulate in advance all new elected officers when that time comes. I beg your pardon. Am I being heard now? Just start for a little bit. Thank you. I was seizing the opportunity to congratulate in advance those persons who will be announced as new officers and of course new members of the General Council. And let me humbly choose if I walk alone. Democratic Labour Party, I ask you to walk with me. As you are aware, we shall be into battle very shortly. And we are assembling the army. And the entire Democratic Labour Party is the army. But there's a branch of the army, I'm not an army man myself, but I think it's called a platoon. And let me say how absolutely delighted I am to be in the company of these outstanding and upstanding young Barbadian people who will be standing bearers for this party. I will not begin these ceremonies, this speech, unless I acknowledge the new father of this party, the man who started the parliament with Right Excellent, Aaron Walton Barrow. We celebrate you today and every day, Robert Bobby Morris. Thank you, Bobby. A few months ago I came here and I spoke of the engine room. I did not speak of, at that time, the candidates and the would-be candidates and those persons who will become celebrated in future. But today I want to go into the engine room, the branches, those persons who toil in the vineyards for this party, those persons who carry the interests of this party, those who cry in defeat and rejoice in victory, those whose names will hardly ever be celebrated on the pages of the media. But today, I want you to remember, branches and members and supporters, that these young men and women, you are not on their shoulders, they are on your shoulders. You carry them. And unless you existed, we would not exist. Today I pause and humbly express deepest gratitude to the branches, the supporters, the presidents, the secretaries, all those who toil in the vineyard, expecting and hoping for political success. Thank you very, very much. This is the 70th year for this occasion, and I am humbled to once again be given the opportunity, humbled and honored, genuinely so. I must admit to you, I was not prepared for this location. When I did what I did in February of 2024, and you must believe me when I say this, I did not have these plans in my mind. I wanted to oppose the government. And as I said at the President's house at the time, I wanted to do it from the safe confines of an established party. And there was no other party. And therefore, Democratic Labour Party, this is your humble servant that has the honor to address you this afternoon. This is your humble servant. In a school called Grace Hill Primary, I remember the picture of the shepherd with the staff and the lamb by the gentle waters of the stream. It was my first school, and we were merely 5 years old. It was an illustration of promise, a picture of hope for protection from the storms in our lives, which were sometimes quite literal, and the folk of this island would be afraid. Perhaps life was not that simple, as we like to say nowadays. And we must therefore honor the lives of struggle of those who went before us. The European war would cast its shadow of darkness across this land and add to the fear and uncertainty, and the sound of the Red Diffusion set pierced the night air, and the monotonous lot of lullabies of crickets accompanied little children to sleep. We were born in a colony. I was born in a colony. I was born in a village. If you were told that you were born free, it was proved only by the kind of government that we had. What can we tell our children today? We scratched our brittle pencil across the slate and made our first letters in infant's A. We would later perfect those symbols in the double-line exercise book. And when we were proficient and more confident, we could use the single-line exercise book and copy Psalm 23 from the teacher's blackboard. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. In those times, the nervous spirits of children were their shepherds. Yet we had a foreboding of the dangers, toils, and snares that presented in our lives. What would we become? And what would become of us? At the end of verse 3, the scripture departed dramatically from the calm of that gentle opening scene. Yea, though I found refuge from the natural storms of Hurricane Jeanette in 1955. And he found refuge from the encircling winds of the political storm that invaded his political life in that same year of 1955. He sought and found political refuge when he built this house, the house of the Democratic Labour Party. Today we celebrate that 70th year. We celebrate with honor for the forefathers, and we celebrate with hope for the future. The singer and the song that accompanied our entrance here today would have sang, "When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark." By 1961, there was a darkness that hovered over Barbados, and many did not see the light. Men and women of vision and courage determined that the light of free education would shine into the lives of the disadvantaged in Barbados. And those who had imposed the darkness would not comprehend the light. It was a social revolution of extraordinary proportion. Democratic Labour Party, we are 70 years on from that pivotal moment of the birth of this party, that is Barbados' choice of first love. A few weeks ago, I challenged our party to stand in the gaps of Barbados against the dangers of the storms that have returned upon our lives. Today, it is a theme that I must revisit. Today, a new political storm rages through Barbados. It is the storm of corruption in high places, a storm of a high cost of living that suffocates, a storm of murderous and violent crime, where the bleeding death of young men has become cliched and statistical, a storm of glaring incompetence in government, where repeated legislative bungling has revealed government's general ineptitude, a storm that has blown away cherished constitutional traditions in favor of dictatorial power that abuses freedom and democracy in Barbados, a storm that has uprooted the moral ballast that used to undergird our cultural mores and traditions. When a senior minister in government gives greater social approval to gangsters over godly people, we know that this storm rages with deadly power. Who will stand in the gap? Somewhere I read that reality is not what you think, it is what you experience. We know what has been and continues to be our experience under this government. I borrow from Martin Luther King and tell you that for the past 7 years, Barbadians have become veterans of creative suffering. Today, this Democratic Labour Party assembles our 70th anniversary conference to present this wonderful theme that solemnly promises to be a good, moral, and honest government. A government that will pledge to alleviate the suffering that engulfs the lives of many in this country. This country where the wealthy receive the financial advantage of concessions and the middle and working classes receive the double burden of high prices and high taxation. Who will stand in the gap? This country where those who labor honestly and are heavy laden receive far less than men who claim to have shaped their swords into plowshares in a so-called peace program. Who will stand in the gap? This country that now degrades its citizens by compelling them to stand in lines to receive financial relief from the hardship imposed by this government. Who put them there in the first place? Who will stand in the gap? Let not today's exercise become a prolix recitation and to restore this land to a place of peace, a place of still waters. It becomes the duty of this beloved Democratic Labour Party to restore the political soul of this nation. What can we do as we stand in the gap? Can we be inspired by what Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow did in 1961? In a land of widespread poverty and social injustice, Mr. Barrow's first strategy for the instatement of social and economic justice was to educate those who could not financially educate themselves beyond the basic levels that a stingy state apparatus provided. We know that story. And today we know that a new and free society was constructed on the right of access to all by education. Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow did his duty. Institution of education in Barbados, and we will bring the necessary reforms to that system only after adequate consultation with those who teach in the system and those whose children toil in the system. But we will not pretend any reinvention of earlier views. In a few weeks, we will produce a report of our party's colloquium on education. Over the past year, we have been meeting with senior and young educators in the system, and we will share the resolutions of that competent group for public discussion and future implementation. Education reform in Barbados is not simply about transforming the language of classes and forms to grades. I was horrified when I heard the government's explanation for the change to grade school. That at international conferences, she said, our foreign counterparts did not understand our language. They said that. It portended dangerously and that there is no virtue in our own cherished cultural values. It is precisely that attitude that the Democratic Labour Party fought against when the doubters and the political cynics invented all kinds of reasons as to why Barbados should not go into independence in 1966. This great party and the freedom-loving people of this country will continue to resist the attempted dismantling of our revered national institutions and the desecration of our national symbols. On every occasion that we have the chance, we will remind this government that the nomenclature, symbolism, and substance of Independence Day, November 30th, is a precious possession to patriotic Barbadians. And that it will never change to Barbados National Day to satisfy any political ego. May God continue to bless Barbados on Independence Day and on every Independence Day hereafter. Barbados is in need of fundamental socio-economic and political repair. Let us today continue to disclose aspects of our vision for Barbados. For unless we do repair, we will all perish in this valley of social disorder. Not for the first time in our history, we are a society that is in crisis. This one is different though. It presents new forms of violence, and it is brazenly severe. Broadly speaking, we are seeing the re-emergence of deep social and economic divisions that now polarize us in ways that expose the vulnerable to marginalization and suffering. Those vulnerable include the middle and working classes, the elderly and the young, both of which latter categories face lives lacking in physical, psychological, social, and financial protection. There's the uncertainty and fear that is now resulting in the flight of our bright young people out of Barbados. It is a crisis that this government conceals as it encourages our young people to indulge hedonistic lives of parties and pleasure as life's ultimate pursuits, and for the sake of diversion from a crushing reality that there will be little good to hope for. In Sir Lloyd Andrew Webber's play, Phantom of the Opera, there is a song called Masquerade that speaks of painted faces on parade. Have we painted false faces over our real faces of agony and uncertain futures? In a regime of incompetent and propagandistic government, has our national life reduced to masking our hardship, I beg your pardon, behind the national mask of festival and diversion? Have we condemned our little children and our young adults to a false reality in which there is little pause for attention to serious spiritual and moral upliftment? Barbados, a new government will have lots of work to do. Here is a broad prescription of how we will pursue that work morally, politically, socially, and economically. The word morally appears first because we intend to be a moral government. Under my charge, it will not be otherwise. It is said that the basic needs are food, clothing, and shelter. Beyond that, humankind is a social and political creature. We must therefore pursue policies that strengthen our social and political institutions. We must strengthen our democracy, and that must never become a cliche. We cannot justify a society in which only the well-to-do eat healthy diets, or people are losing their good health on bad diets, while our agricultural base continues to be sacrificed on the anvil of real estate deals. The government has compulsorily acquired 5 acres of agricultural land in the St. George Valley on the claim that they will build a roundabout. We do not believe them. We do not believe them. Indeed not. It takes far less than 5 acres to build a roundabout in this spot. The government must tell the people of Barbados whether this is part of the government's continuing rampage against agricultural lands for the sake of commercial corporate. Yes, my brother. We propose an agricultural project in which young farmers are inducted with incentivization into the agricultural sector on lands that reflect economies of scale. We must quickly reverse government's present course in which agriculture and healthy organic foods are in decline. We must put our lands back to work, and we must put our farmers into work. The failure of the government's COOP cane sugar experiment has revealed a lack of any serious commitment and only begrudging support on the part of the administration to sustain the sugar industry or to enfranchise new entrepreneurs in the industry. This adds to the historical evidence that this government does not take certain people seriously. This government does not take the majority of people in this country seriously. This new agricultural trust will not take place at the expense of our tourism industry, though. This Democratic Labour Party will continue to support the tourism industry and will implement serious policies towards developing the largely untapped area of community tourism. For a long time, our tourists have demonstrated an interest in local Barbadian life. A Democratic Labour Party government must extend tourism-related tax concessions into the local rum shops and cricket clubs that continue to attract tourists into their domains. People of Barbados, this is your time. This is your time. And this is time for the poor and the middle class in Barbados. And it cannot and will not happen under this Barbados Labour Party. It will happen only under this great Democratic Labour Party. On the issue of the basic need for shelter, it is clear that some of Barbados' social problems spiral from inadequate housing and from the decay of our domestic urban places. What we have traditionally referred to as the housing areas and the landing schemes of Barbados have fallen into decay. And this government continues to be indifferent. They do not care. This dilapidation of our housing across the urban spaces of Barbados has spawned problems of declining social and individual esteem. These urban spaces have become incubators for the scourge and incidents of violent and murderous crime. I say that they have become the incubators, not the causes. I therefore must reject Miyamoto's condemnation that violent crime has its origins within dysfunctional working class families. I reject that. The delinquent young men who rampage through the streets probably cannot afford to buy the expensive weapons that they carry. It seems that many of these miscreants are the pawns of nefarious principles who benefit financially and may be protected in their well-concealed cocoons of criminality. Curiously, the government continues to resist our frequent calls for the kind of legislation that will extend its reach into these hidden dens of iniquity, while they affix entire responsibility only to these dangerous public perpetrators. Both are guilty. Both are guilty. The Democratic Labour Party extends gratitude to Ms. Berla de Pisa and the party's Commission on Crime for the great work of research and public consultation that was done, in addition to the brilliantly incisive report that was presented to the party a few weeks ago. I will not allow this occasion to pass unless I express deepest gratitude to Mr. Ainsley Bang, who gave to me the idea of a commission on crime after we hosted a very successful symposium at the Grand Salle of the Central Bank of Barbados. The Democratic Labour Party is a great team, ready, willing, and able to do great things once again in the government of Barbados, since it is my view that many of our social problems fester within environments of urban decline. A new Democratic Labour Party government must commit itself to a massive program of urban and housing renewal intended to elevate our depressed spaces back into places of peace and wholesome social fervor. We must do it. We must rebuild urban and working class Barbados. Just a few years ago, these communities were the major zones of Barbados' most accomplished sports teams and wider achievement, academically and so on. The social decline has been dramatic and tragic. As a government, we must and will invest heavily into the development of our people. Too many of our citizens are born into their communities and become adults within the same neighborhoods, having borne the stigma and disadvantage of their address. We must rebuild these communities. This is a social phenomenon that is wasting the talents and opportunities of many of our young people who are condemned by stigma into these communities. Let us rebuild these communities. As some have moved into the newer housing communities, the older communities continue to suffer from the migration of that human capital that used to serve as leaders and mentors. We envision that this program of rebuilding our public and private housing will stretch over many years, and that it must be designed in such a way that it encourages our young citizens to acquire the skills of construction at the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute. Within what we call the landing schemes, we envision that our new Barbadian builders will be trained to rehabilitate or to rebuild our housing stock in a manner that preserves the architectural aesthetic of the Barbadian chattel house that has defined our landscape as one of beauty and highly valued heritage. Our traditional housing areas must be redesigned and expanded to alleviate the chronic problem of overcrowding. As a government, we must, together with the private sector, make that necessary large investment into this noble project of upliftment for the sake of an entire society. We are discovering that the problem of terrible disadvantage anywhere is a problem of terrible disadvantage everywhere. We must rebuild these communities. We must rebuild these communities for the sake of an entire country. Within these rehabilitated communities, there must be new designs of spaces, not only for recreation, but also for entrepreneurship as well. We know that by local creative effort, many of the spaces in these neighborhoods have been transformed into zones of commerce. However, there must be modern and sophisticated business hubs rebuilt into these rehabilitated neighborhoods. The state can institutionalize the concept of community policing by establishing permanent mini stations within the neighborhoods. And that will harmonize and normalize frictional relationships between the citizens and the police. The police are citizens too. And there's no good reason why they must not harmonize with the citizens of this country. This project of renewal has positive implications for higher employment among our young people and for real economic growth. I am extremely pleased to tell you that I have discussed this project with Dr. David Eswick and that these discussions will continue with our team of economists. Read me loud and clear. Administratively, it will require a much expanded National Housing Corporation, which will be the only corporation into which housing lands will be vested. The whole project must be investigated, and all lands vested in that corporation will be transferred into the property of the National Housing Corporation. The National Housing Corporation, which has served this country with great distinction. Long may the life of the National Housing Corporation continue. In 1961, Right Excellent Harold Barrow and Sir James Tudor embarked on a program of liberalized universal education amidst some doubt, cynicism, and fear that it could not have been done. Many have wondered where the money would have come from. We will come to hear similar doubt, cynicism, and fear as to how this massive project of rebuilding the homes and the lives of our least celebrated citizens will be done. The financial costs in executing this project will be high, but the social cost of not doing this project in human and physical development will be far higher. We have no choice except to do this. We must and we will. This Democratic Labour Party must do it. And let us not be overly concerned about the costs, the financial costs. This country is in social and economic decline. The time has come to invest in our people. The truth is that we have attempted to close the scourge of this physical decay in good social policy that will only partially address the many problems that afflict the lives of too many of our people. As a government, we will continue to support and encourage the more prestigious domestic and commercial infrastructural growth and development that harmonize with the ideals of national development. We recognize the social tensions that may persist upon this government's present trajectory of uneven development across our physical landscape. In other words, the government is paying lots of attention to the infrastructural developments that belong to the rich, and they're not paying attention to the poor people of Barbados. And that is what I call uneven development. And this Democratic Labour Party, it is the duty of this Democratic Labour Party to make that development even once again. A new Democratic Labour Party government will bring genuine harmony to this country's mixed development. Earlier this year in my budget reply, I quoted the Greek philosopher Plato, who is credited with having said, and I quote, "Show me a democracy, and I will show you a tyranny in the making." There is an uneasy feeling among Barbadians that we are losing our democratic freedoms and traditions. We continue to limp along in a constitutional conundrum of Republican statehood, except with a Westminster content. This legal and political dilemma seems to be concentrating excessive power in the hands of the Prime Minister. Part of the evidence of this exists in the now unconscious language of every minister, who will not complete any public statement unless they remind their audience that they have the Prime Minister's approval. They hardly ever refer to the cabinet. And apparently the cabinet is the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister is the cabinet. The amendment by the Prime Minister of the phone tapping legislation during her speech in Parliament a few days ago is further evidence of the disproportionate power wielded by Mayor Motley, while a limp Attorney General and a politically comatose cabinet sat silently nearby and said not a word. It was the unilateral amendment of an act of Parliament in the full glare of the public. That is the kind of government we have in this country. And that is why the ordinary citizen is saying to his neighbor and his friend, and even strangers, that we have dictatorship in this country, and this Democratic Labour Party must remove the specter and the reality of dictatorship from the halls of power in this country. The constitutional malaise in which a country has plodded along as a republic without a substantial republican constitution is untenable. A new Democratic Labour Party government will discard the proposals that this government brought to the country, and there will be genuine public consultation as to the content of a new Republican constitution. I envision a broadening down of democracy to include a tier of local government that includes the citizens in their local communities, having responsibility for the delivery of services into their neighborhoods. Our local streets and public spaces must be maintained and beautified by local administration, by local government. That will become a guarantee that this work will always be done if it is done under the administration of the people who live in those communities. That is local government. In a modern democracy, our local communities must cease to be at the mercy of a minister for satisfactory public amenities and infrastructure. Let our local people take their own responsibility. Of course, with government monies, with the monies from central government. By this scheme of local government, the social welfare agencies would work directly with these councils to ensure social protection for the elderly, the young, and those who are otherwise most vulnerable. This is also the kind of Barbados that we need to rebuild. A Barbados in which the agencies of the state will harmonize with the citizens, genuinely harmonize with the citizens, to ensure that this country can return to the standards of community life that we once knew. You probably did not expect me to pause and say, and I will say, that for 2 years straight, this government has given $500,000 to one man. To one man who claims that he is in the business of social welfare work. That is not right, and there's no accounting. There has been no official accounting for the first $500,000, nor for the second $500,000. We need local government in this country. And no one man will constitute himself as local government. I believe that local government should be depoliticized, and that persons who sit on councils of local government should do so according to individual merit and not by virtue of advertised party affiliation. Neighbors must live next door to each other and sit on local councils and not contained by virtue of party affiliation. Let people live peacefully within their local councils. In this regard, there would be no replication of membership within the House. There will be no replication of the membership that exists within the House of Assembly and the Senate. I also believe that local government councils should be partitioned according to parish boundaries and not constituency boundaries. This would give greater autonomy to these local bodies. I believe also that parliamentary time I absolutely disagree with any proposal that the House of Assembly should bear the spectacle of division between something called national parliamentarians and constituency parliamentarians. What is that? It is elitist, unwieldy, and backward, and has no place in a modern Republican legislature. Maybe the time has come to introduce a Senate that is elected, since the present arrangement inheres with aspects of elitism and entitlement. Again, it is a system that is inconsistent with republicanism, in which power devolves from the bottom up. Change on the subject of professional top flight cricket in Barbados a few months ago in the Maple Pavilion. Don't you remember that? With the captain of a team and Dr. Armstrong. I have had a similar exchange with a former Barbados cricket captain, and the views within the cricket fraternity are expressed with clarity, consistency, and optimistic vision that local professional cricket is possible in this country. Let us put even our young sportsmen to work on the cricket fields of this country. The government's loan of $50 million, the loan received, that is, for cricket development, has not impacted any club in Barbados. And Barbadians continue to wonder as to the destination of that loan. Where's that money? Democratic Labour Party. Where's that money, I ask the people of Barbados? Where's that money, I ask those who should know, and those who should know are the government of this Barbados. No accounting has been given for that $50 million that has disappeared through the administrative cracks. of Barbados' financial apparatus. Where's the money? In 7 years, this government's main activity in sport has been to fence a few recreational areas across Barbados, describing them as mini stadia. The hideous wire fences have destroyed the ambience and the organic relationship between the community and the field of play. Physical sport, you saw it. Yes, you did. Greens is one. Greens is one. St. Catherine is another one. And you will not be surprised to know that I know that God in St. John is one too. Physical sport is by nature a young person's endeavor. And we must create opportunities for our young athletes from an early age. Too often, we see our young athletes excelling at 15 and 16, and by the time they reach the world stage of 22 years old, they decline. They are good athletes. Are we supporting them? Has this government adequately supported our young athletes? Or do we discard them when they meet inevitable failure, because it is human to fail? And when our athletes fail, our government abandons them. And I hear Senator Worrell saying and reminding us that the BDS sports program has been killed by this government. And Tino Best, young Tino Best will permit me to call his name today, because Tino Best gives testimony in which he says that unless there had been a BDS sports program, he would not have played cricket for Barbados nor the West Indies. Tino, wherever you are this evening, and I believe you're with the St. Lucia team in the CBL, we give thanks for you as you have given thanks to the government. But alas, that program has ended. And I hear a voice reminding me that young Damian Fanas, whom you have grown to love over the last few months on the LPTV, where's Damian? Excellent young man. Damian, and when you hear his story, you will grow to love him even more. Physical sport is by nature a young person's endeavor. And we must create opportunities for our young athletes from an early age. I previously sought unsuccessfully to persuade the government to construct genuine mini-stadia containing running tracks, 3-4 lanes, a pit for jumping, long jumping. Not more than that is needed. Much more than that is needed within these communities. My proposal then was for one in the north, somewhere between St. Lucie, Jason Phillips, St. Peter, and St. James North. One in the south. And Nathaniel, this would be of particular interest to you, Nathaniel Boyce, that quiet young man who is doing some really good noisy work in St. Michael South. And the other one would be of particular interest to my friend Simon Clark, my friend and colleague Simon Clark, somewhere in the east of Barbados. We must plan this country's future around young people. By nature and definition, the future belongs to the young people. We are passing through. But all that we do, and most of what we do, is for the young people of this country. While the young people of this Barbados languish in this government's neglect, the same government spends millions of dollars on consultants. and in projects that bear no benefits for our country. Tonight we will go to bed while large government funds are spent on a mission, a diplomatic mission in Dubai. What do they do? And one in Kenya. What do they do? And there's a plan to put one in Morocco. What do they do? We know what the people of this country will do. And we know what the people of this country sensibly. And the only thing to be done is to get this expensive government out of the halls. Aspects of my vision for a new Barbados. These will become subject to the democratic vision of this Democratic Labour Party and of a new government. We are a team, and we are a democratic team, and all ideas will contain. Before all this, you have come to a place and to a building that is renewed and made brighter with the party colors. The party colors that were painted by men and women who love this Democratic Labour Party. It reflects a cleansing of the political soul and a resolution for a brighter day. Physically and symbolically, the doors are wide open. We thank Comrade Pedro Shepherd. Where's Pedro? Yes. We thank Comrade Pedro Shepherd and his team who shed the physical clothing of General Secretary and led this work. Thank you, Pedro. In many ways, you have transformed this into a brand new place, except with old political values. And we are indebted to you. Andrew is part of the work, and Dave and Michael. We are indebted to you, Pedro. We thank Senator Andre Worrell for his consistent and unswerving loyalty to the cause of this party as president over the last year. We thank all the officers and council members who have agreed and contended variously and sometimes muscularly in their mission to defend this party's public work through their internal deliberations, but we thank you all the same. We thank our dear comrades Mona Eslick and Annette Wood, who continue to render gratuitous service in the office. We do not underestimate the value of their service. Will they mind if I say I use the word gratuitous, but I want to use the Bajan word, they're doing it for free. And will we pause to express deepest gratitude to these two ladies. We thank Comrade David Boeing and the communications team that continues, again gratuitously, for free that is, to give this party a presence within the public domain through the LPTV and the many media conferences, David and team. Thank you very much, Ramon, Melissa. We thank all those precious souls that love and support this party in any private or public way. Today, we began with the tradition of a religious service, not for the sake of ritual, but because we continue to sit in a tradition in which we will continue to honor the words written by our forefathers within the Constitution of Barbados. And I quote, that the people of Barbados proclaim that they are a sovereign nation founded upon principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, the dignity of the human person, their unshakable faith in fundamental human rights and freedoms, the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, affirm their belief that men and institutions remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law, declare their intention to establish and maintain a society in which all persons may, to the full extent of their capacity, play a due part in the institutions of the national life. And resolve that the operation of the economic system shall promote the general welfare by the equitable distribution of the material resources of the community, by the human conditions under which all men shall labor, and by the undeviating recognition of ability, integrity, and merit, unquote. Those are the words within your Constitution. Those are the words within your Constitution, placed there by the dead patriots, but alive in our hearts and our memories. Those are the words placed in that Constitution. Let that Constitution live until such time as the people of Barbados determine by referendum that it will change to a Republican Constitution. Let those words continue to live. What has happened to the child born in 2018? Today he or she is 7 years old. In the 7th year of our early lives. We went to bed to the sounds of invisible crickets chirping their peaceful lullabies. We woke in a country where people were proud, industrious, caring, and protective. We walked under a sun that shone brightly on our hopeful lives, and the blanket of the evening's gray was reassuring, and we went to bed once again in a sovereign land of independence, freedom, democracy, and safety. Is today's 7-year-old child living in a colony of dictatorship and violence? Our message to our citizens of 7 or 70 must be that when you walk through the storms of this government, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. For at the end of the storm is a golden sky. That golden sky will come with a change of government. Barbadians, we in the Democratic Labour Party invite you to join with us and to roll back the clouds of darkness that have descended on our social, political, and spiritual lives, and to reveal the future's golden sky, so that the citizens of this country will once again say with the psalmist, say with the psalmist, surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives to complete it. May God bless us all. Thank you very much.